Right. About to go live on Facebook then. I'll speak to you shortly.
Okay, thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll just wait for a few more people to get on as the attendees, and then we'll go through some housekeeping and I'll introduce Judy for you. Okay, so welcome to the Nudging webinar. This is the first in a series of 2 webinars with Judy Roberts from Right Product, Right Place. This one is for the menu engineering for gross profit. We have another one next week on the 24th at the same time on plant-based products. If you haven't already signed up for that, please do. Just a bit of housekeeping for during the session today. You'll notice that your mic is muted, but you can communicate with me, Judy, and the other participants in the chat function. The chat function can be found if you hover over the bottom of or the top of your screen and select the speech bubble icon. Please change that chat function to all panelists and attendees so that everyone can see you and your responses. Please do introduce yourself and let us know where you're from. There's also a Q&A function which you can use to ask Judy questions. If she can't answer straight away, we'll come back to you after the session when we can. This session is being recorded, and the recorded session will be in the past events in the professional development event section on the Academy part of the TUCO website. But you will need login details to be able to do this, and it will also be in the TUCO Facebook page. I will now hand over to Judy.
Thank you, Sarah, and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. So we may have some people joining us further on, but it looks like we're just going to be quite low key on the screen. So it's just going to be just Sarah and my screens up on the screens if you needed that. Just a mention about me, I've been working with TUCO since 2020. When we sort of started thinking about merchandising and how you could make the most of the products on your counter and make sure that you get the most profit out of it. Menu engineering is kind of a sideways look at that. Merchandising is a part of how you present your food, but menu engineering is often what drives your choices of products and where they go in your spaces. So it's sort of at the forefront of what we try and do as caterers. So this week's one is sort of an introduction, and you may well have touched on it in past. And certainly if you have had some chef experience and chef background, you may well have covered this yourself. But what we're trying to think about now is how that works alongside customer psychology and how menus should be presented, paper menus should be presented, so that you get the whole impact, a really positive impact by the effort that you put in. So without further ado, I shall try and get my computer to wake up, and we shall press on with the first slide. So I've been a caterer since I left school, really. I went to uni and did a catering course, and then was in catering and discovered that merchandising and how we actually think about the way in the sort of science behind where we put things on our counters and how we lay out by till points or any aspect of the restaurant facility makes a massive difference to how much people spend. And it's not just a case of trying to force people to spend more and would you like fries with that kind of attitude. It's about encouraging people by this fantastic display of things that they feel that you've thought of on their behalf, and therefore you really understand them, and they feel that there's a great empathy between yourself and the customer, and they're more likely to come back. So that obviously is a really good good idea to try and generate. So I took this idea about merchandising as my own business, and now my business, as Sarah said, is called Right Product, Right Place. And I've been working with Tuco in universities and online to run courses. And you may have seen on the prospectus that Tuco produces that I run about 4 courses a year at various places, plus then in specific universities that are keen to really think about their own spaces and their own people. I'm very happy to pick up with any of you afterwards about that. But let's get going on menu engineering. Today's objective is to learn how to maximize sales and profitability by creating more effective menus through a strategic approach to recipe selection and menu layout. I ought to let you know that typically we will share a set of PDF slides for you as a sort of memory jog. And if you want to chat through the principles with colleagues who haven't been able to come along today. And I know it's, as Sarah said, it's being recorded for posterity on the Facebook. Excuse me. So we're going to think about various aspects of it first. First of all, we're going to define what we mean by menu engineering rather than just bandy it about as a bit of jargon. And how are we going to get going with that? We need some effective measurement. So we need to think about what that means and what form that should take. And then we're going to start thinking about your dishes and your recipes to make sure that we categorize them into various sections, and you'll start to understand this as we go through. And then once we've categorized dishes, we can then decide what we do with them to improve their performance. So that's the 4th section, is we're going to be thinking about how we move the recipes and dishes that aren't quite performing as they should into better categories. And then we'll also think about counter layout and menu display, and how a printed menu should be formatted to optimize further sales. So we're going to take about an hour, and we'll have some question and answers at the end, bit of a quiz, and all the answers therefore will go onto the chat, just very low key type thing. Just really want to check that some of you are awake, or hopefully all of you by the time we get to the end. So we're going to start by thinking about menu engineering. I can get my computer to wake up again. Right, what is menu engineering? So a definition is, it's basically a series of exercises that you can undertake that ensure that each dish and drink that is featured on your restaurant's menu is profitable, popular, or both. And that means that you've got no dead wood in the system. You've really maximized the opportunity that you have. So I'll just read you from a piece that I found online, which is a great definition, really. It's a way of evaluating a restaurant's menu pricing by using sales data and food costs to guide which dishes to feature and their menu price. Equipped with that data, menu engineering involves categorizing menu items based on their popularity and their profitability. You have to have a firm grasp of each menu item's prices and food costs per serving and their contribution margin. Once you have that, you'll be able to categorize your menu items and see which items contribute more profit and which aren't pulling their weight, as I say. And those are the ones that we need to tackle, weed out, or improve their performance. So we're going to think about how that happens. But obviously, we need to find out, understand why it is that we're even bothering, really. The benefits of using menu engineering. So can anybody give me some thoughts on the chat about what they think the benefits are going to be of getting this menu engineering right? What joy are we going to bring to your catering service? What sorts of things? Anybody want to throw some ideas in here? What are we trying to do? Don't be shy. Can you just type some thoughts into the I'll make some profits. Yes, thank you, Sarah. That's it. Take the bull by the horns and actually put a figure in there, put an answer in there. It's tricky with the chat, I must admit, but we'll all get used to that. So speed typing is the answer. So what else are we trying to do? Who are we trying to please? We're some very quiet people here today. Customers, yes, Sarah, thank you. I know that there's about 20 people out there, but very quiet people, evidently. So yes, the customers are going to be overjoyed by the kind of work that you're going to put into this. So I'll give you my list of items here. Sarah thinks there might be a problem with the chat function, so I shouldn't judge you all as not wanting to play. So basically, we're trying to improve the overall financial performance of the outlet. We're going to weed out the non-performing dishes. We're going to have less wastage of food. We're going to inspire menu innovation because we need to think of clever ways to reinvent things that aren't pulling their weight. So as a result, your time management's improved because you're focusing on the things that really generate money and ignoring those or giving less time to those things that don't. And overall, we'll have some happier customers because they'll be inspired by the kind of presentation that you're going to put together of the food items, and a happier team as a result of happier customers. So there's a whole set of ticks that you'll bring positive messages into your businesses with. So the second aspect then is to think about how we start with menu engineering. The basis of this is effective recipe measurement. Now, this is always that bit where everyone says food costs, but they must be up to date and complete in order to give you any kind of data or any kind of anchor point within your financial performance. How else will you know what's working and what isn't? So we'll assume that you've got up-to-date food costings and that probably your computer systems keep that up to date from invoice prices with any luck these days too. So in order to be able to really measure recipes, you need to have a standard template, which is probably something that you've got in your system. And sorry, Sarah's trying to sort out the chat. I do hope we get to that point where it's actually working again. Sorry about that, guys. So yes, using a standard template means that you will have comparable recipe information and makes it simple for those other people to pick it up. So one person who's created it, somebody else can use it because it will be in exactly the expected format. Make sure that weights and volumes are in agreed formats, so kilograms, grams, litres, millilitres. Make sure that everything is the same, else you end up, and you possibly have had this yourself when you try to order online from the supermarket and end up with 1 apple instead of a kilo, or vice versa. So making sure that those weights and volumes are in proper formats is important. All ingredients and aspects should be included, so garnish, dressings, any packaging, and obviously have an agreed wastage allowance if you have one for your site. The number of portions per recipe should also ideally be the same, because that will help you to understand what the interface and comparison between recipes is. It's much simpler to ascertain the cost of 100 portions, say, or 50 portions across various recipes that all have 50 portions than have to quickly do a sum because this one's for 25, this one's for 12, that sort of thing. So having a standard number of portions does help to take out some of the stress of or the errors that can fall in, actually, if you haven't got the standard system across the whole lot. So once you've got that, we'll assume that you've all got those, so that full marks for that bit. So we then need to think about the from those recipes, and when you put them on the menu, what happens with them? How do they perform? First of all, obviously, how many are sold, because that's a good indicator of whether the dish is a popular one. How many are wasted? So at the end, how many had to be thrown away because they were overproduced? Any customer feedback that you've got about the recipe or the portion size or the too much spice or whatever it was? How does is there any customer feedback that will help you to perfect your recipes? How complex was it to produce? And if there's a massive labor impact of having that dish on the menu, is it something that you could actually outsource? So this is where you do the juggle of, do you buy in the sandwiches or do you make them on site? There's how complex something is and how much space it takes in your area. All those things will help to indicate whether something should be outsourced rather than made on site. And then, of course, you think about current food trends. So if something isn't selling very well, is it because it's perhaps falling into maybe an out of date kind of style? Maybe it's too heavy for the time of year. Thinking about the season is important. And obviously at the moment, plant-based food is high priority. And that's why we're going to be thinking about that in greater detail on next Wednesday's webinar. So the other aspect is that you want our customers want higher quality and premiumization. So maybe less meat in a dish. It could still have meat, but maybe better quality, higher welfare standards, those sorts of things. So, Sarah says that she's tried to chat. She's sort of fixed the chat, so we should be able to communicate with each other a bit better now. So I do hope so. So if anybody fancies checking that. Oh, yes, Alex. Thanks, Sarah. That's great. I'm glad that that's working. Yay! Nice one. Excellent. Good. I don't feel quite so alone now. This is rather good. So, yeah, we think about how those dishes are performing. And then from that, we're going to be thinking about the getting to the point. Let's just find that. Getting to the point where we've got some kind of a table that we can that starts to summarize. This is very simplified. Obviously, I've got 6 things on here. 3 of them are chips, but I just want to be able to illustrate to you how we can manipulate things within this table once we discover what category each item goes into. So I've started with a cost price for each item, given it a selling price including VAT, taken off VAT, and then I've looked at therefore what the margin and the margin percentage is, so pounds and in percentage. And then the actual performance is how many we might sell in a week, say, and that's given us a contribution, which is the profit margin, should we say, times the number sold. So that's, for instance, on the chicken burger, £412.28. And then that's the same. Hello, everybody. I'm glad that they were now able to roll properly on the chat. I'm really glad. So this is going to be our example template that we're going to take through the rest of the exercises. So now we're going to think about how we categorize the dishes. So we know this information. We've gathered this from the recipe, costs, and basically a cost and sales analysis, so that we know the period that we're looking at, which is a week in this instance. So now we will insert that into a grid. So what we're going to do is to categorize each of those 6 dishes so that they fit along the axes of this very simple graph. So profitability on the y-axis and popularity on the x, in my case, but you could do the other way around if you fancy, but that's the way I've set it out. And then we end up with 4 categories in each of the quarters there, 1 to 4. So we're just going to look at what those are. So these are termed various things. Number 1 is a star, which is high profit and very popular. As you can see, it sits in that top quadrant on the greater popularity and the greater profitability. So those are the things that you really like to sell. It does good for your business, and obviously your customers love them. Then you've got puzzle. This is a bit of a puzzle because it doesn't quite sell as well as you'd like. So perhaps we need to think about how we're selling it. But obviously, when it does sell, it's a great thing for your bottom line. It's high on the profitability scale, but it's not being popular enough, and you'd like that to drive it more. Number 3 is referred to as the plough horse, because this is trudging along in the background, very popular item, but it doesn't actually give you much return. And that's a challenge, because the more you sell of that, actually, the more it dilutes your overall profitability. So that, again, we might need to think about where it's sold from or how you sell it. But also you can think about why the finances don't quite stack up for it. And we'll have a look at that shortly. And then we've got number 4, the dog, which is a shame because I do like dogs. But this is actually the dog of a dish that doesn't sell well or make you much money. So you have to be asking yourself why you're bothering with that. Sometimes they're loss leaders, but actually we need to really examine whether we need to take them off the menu. So if we're going to, I'm just going to put little icons in because I'll use those later. So quite obviously, those are those. So we're going to think about this example that we have then. So I'm going to put the numbers sold of an item along the x-axis, and then the profitability on the y-axis of our graph. So I've used those figures, and it comes out like this. So we end up with a chips large in the dog section, steak and kidney pie and chicken burger in the puzzle. The pizza margherita is a star, way ahead of anything else. The plough horse shows up. They've got some side orders still. The chips, small and medium, both sit in that section. So all I've done is halved the grid. If you can see that half of it sits in above the 350 £350, because 700 is the top of the graph, and then across the bottom we've got, it goes from 1 to 300. So again, the vertical line is right in the halfway mark. So you have to be quite strict with yourself about that. Make sure that the whole spread of the menu gives you a halfway mark that you define quite clearly, because then you know which of them is worse than average, performing worse than average, and those are the ones that you need to be working on. So if we go back to our wonderful example of using all those figures, then we're going to think about the categories. So we've got chicken burgers, as I say, and the steak kidney pie are both in the puzzle section. Margherita pizza in the star. Chips, medium and small, are in the plough horse, and then we've got the large chips as a one of the dog items. So it's not selling very well. It's interesting, isn't it? So it may be that you've just got very generous portions for the small and large, so small and medium. So you really don't need to think about that. But yes, this is where we start to analyze what's going on. So now we're going to think about how we're going to move those items. So if you want to move anything from a plough horse section to star section, we need to we're trying to improve the margin. Can anybody give me some ideas about how you might do that? What's an obvious one, for instance, how you can improve the margin on something? It might annoy a few customers, but what would increase price? Exactly, Dana. Yes, indeed, that. Reduce portion size. Yeah, again, that would annoy Adam. You're right. It's a good way of making the margin work better. So yeah, good thinking. So come on, that's it. I keep losing the ability for it to move forward. So we can add value and increase price. That's a better way of increasing price, not literally increasing the price on the same product. We can add a side order, or make it a meal deal, or something that makes it more interesting. Yeah, find a cheaper product, says Dana. That's a very good point. So yes, it's a case of playing with the recipe and thinking about how you can improve its profitability overall, because as long as you don't damage the fact that customers love it, and then you will still continue to sell it well. Yes, as Philip says, upsell with other items at a different price. That's right. So you bundle it together with as meal deal or something, and that will help to boost it. But be careful about what you're doing and think about what goes with what, and really actually understand that the financial impact. You can review the portion size, as we said, reduce the overall food cost by adjusting the recipe, and that's where we think about cheaper products as part of the recipe, maybe, and maybe thinking about garnish if that's part of it. Simplify the production method, because if you're able to produce it very quickly, then it becomes a more valuable plough horse, because there's less labour time tied up in it. But generally speaking, we're wanting to improve its financial profitability. You could retain it as a loss leader if you're feeling that it's bringing customers in. But if you can, at the same time as it being a loss leader and bringing customers in, that it improves it. I mean, it could be, for instance, it could be the roast dinner or the fish and chips. Great for popularity, but don't actually generate you masses of return. You can think about the second half of this engineering idea, really, and about the way that you present the food, or the written menu itself, can help to even the share of customer desire for away from the fish and chips to something else, just by the way you have presented it. So it all is not lost if you have plough horses. They will we can work on them in different ways, even if you can't put the price up. So moving from puzzle to star, i.e. increasing popularity, what we're going to do for this one. Anybody got any thoughts on that? How are we going to make the puzzle more interesting? Promotions, absolutely, Harriet. Good thinking. Anybody else got any thoughts? Yeah, how you present it, exactly, Adam. So again, as I said, that is a trick up your sleeve to make sure that how you merchandise that dish really boosts its presentation, and we'll come to that a bit later on. Position on menu counter, exactly right, Alex. Yeah, positioning. Yeah, so you've all got the gist here. So we could lower the price. That's something else we could do as a special offer, just to drive more customers to try it. So it could be, as Harriet mentioned, a promotion. So you could do that like just for a brief period, and then once everybody's hooked on it, and then it becomes a pull product for people to come in for, then it'll start to generate more profitability for you overall. Increase the value perception of the dish. So it could be that if it comes with other things, that it could make it into a meal deal, that it becomes more, and therefore more attractive as a customer's choice. It might be the way that you've described it, or lack of description when you write it on a menu. So that's something else to consider. Maybe the name is putting people off, and if you have something that is maybe a bit unknown or less understandable, or maybe it's the plant-based version of something that would generate you a good return, but people aren't keen on trying it, then it's worth having a promotion or boosting it in some other way to try and get people familiar with it, and then its popularity will be boosted. Promote it, as we mentioned. You can always ask for feedback, why it is that people have chosen it, and that will help maybe to show what they love about it, and then that'll help you to position it more widely for everybody else. And if you're struggling with it, then do remove it from menu if you won't alienate customers, because it's maybe taking too much effort away from the popular items to actually sell it, even though it's a good profitability driver. If you've tried everything and you can't get it to become more popular, then it's worth chopping it off. And if you've got a dog, we're trying to resolve this aspect. We're trying to increase popularity and profit. You really have to ask yourself whether it's worth the effort. This is going to be a combination of all the stuff we've talked about already. But actually, ideally, remove from the menu, because you've got to both increase its popularity and the profitability. So really, you're starting from a very low place there. If it's a loss leader, now this is something that happens in pubs and restaurants, for instance, where they've got children's meals. Those wouldn't be generating them much money. They'd probably be classed as a dog. They're worth keeping because they obviously drive the adult purchase into the restaurant. So it's depending on where you work and what the product range is, you may well have something that's like this, a loss leader, where actually that's fine. We have to swallow the fact that it's a dog and because we know it drives other purchases. But if you have got a loss leader, that something that your customers love, or some of the customers love, and they always ask for, then make it as a made to order item rather than have it on display. Because if you have it on display or in a picture or anything like that, it's highlighting it again to customers. So what you really want is for less and less customers to bother ordering it, and then it will you can just take it off. So it's worth mentioning perhaps that the meal deals at Marks and Spencer's, for instance, they're often advertised on the outside. So these sort of loss leaders are great for dragging customers in and giving them the thought that they need to come in and buy something. But actually, when they're in there, we're totally distracted by all the other things. So the hope from Marks and Spencer's side is that we buy something that generates more income than the meal deal. But the meal deal is used as a hook to bring people in the same way that children's meals can be, or any kind of sort of the bargain burger range or whatever that might be advertised outside. Then they come in and they'll hopefully order something that's more costly and helps the overall performance of the site. So in our example then, we had these. I'm just going to move the chat out of the way because it gets in the way here. Right, so we're going to think about the action that we're going to take for each of these. So the chicken burger, which was a puzzle. If I can come on, wake up again. That's it. My thought here was that we make it a meal. So we've gone, actually, let's just, yeah, so we've got $6.25 as the selling price, for instance, for the chicken burger with a $1.91 cost price. And then I'm going to increase the cost price to $2.31, but the selling price has gone up to $7.95 because we've made it a meal deal. So now you've increased the margin to 65 from 63. So overall, we've increased the profitability of the dish and increased the popularity. Now, the popularity, these figures here, the 150 I've put in there instead of the 125, which was there before. That is obviously me putting that in just as an example, but you'd need to test this on your client base, on your customers, to see what actually happens and see if that move to making it a burger meal has actually increases the number sold. Maybe it makes it more attractive, so it stops being a puzzle and starts to become a star. Steak and kidney pie, we're going to amend the recipe so that that's a cheaper recipe, maybe a bit less on the meat, maybe a bit more on the kidney, and maybe some mushrooms in there or something else just to help boost the profitability of that. So again, we're moving it into the star area. Pizza margherita is flying away already as a great seller and a great profitability driver. So we're going to keep that one. The chips on the sides, they are down in the plough horse section. So we're thinking about increase the price of those and increase the price of the medium size and delete the large range of fries. So we're helping the customer base that we have got to be sort of concentrated on those two sizes, because there's no point selling the large one as well. And the fact that we've increased the price on those may or get some resistance at first, but the fact that customers are within your space, and that's what the prices are, they haven't got any other choices anywhere else, will help to, over time, after a week or so, that will settle down, and customers will become more accepting. So now we've done that, we'll end up with, in this instance, in a week, we've got a 2% gross profit in margin increase, which is not huge. It was a very small site, this one, and a very small requirement of margin movement. If we had a gross profit target of, say, 70%, you know that you're not far off. It doesn't take a huge amount to push it over the top of that. But within any kind of food cost analysis that hasn't ever been looked at in terms of in this way, you can usually make 15 to 20% difference to the bottom line if you have never looked at it and thought about which are the dogs and which are the stars, and really focus on making sure that you're changing the things for the right reasons, so that you increase in the profitability and the popularity, and focusing your attention on the right things, really. Otherwise you're just exhausting yourself with no reward. So from that, that's a bit of celebration there. We're going to think about the counter layout. So we've looked at that's the first bit. We're going to be thinking about those plough horses and puzzles to try and move them to be stars, and probably the dogs just to be ignored. But there's various things that are influencing our customers' choices. What did you, on the whole, from your experience, what is driving what customers are choosing when they come into your spaces? What sort of things influence? Anybody got any thoughts? Put those thoughts on the chat if you would. Costs, absolutely, and costs will be different at different times of the month for everybody. Of course, it's some people get paid at the beginning of the month, or their grant comes through, or whatever. Yeah, healthy and colourful. You're right, Lionel. Anything that looks bright will catch attention. You're right. Time of year, is it summer food or is it wintry warmth that we're looking for? Yes, dietary requirements, Dana. That's a good point. The fact that somebody might be gluten intolerant or actually wanting plant-based food is important to bear in mind. Obviously, how fresh stuff is, Alison, that's a very good point. Does it look good? That's the visual bit. We are very visual creatures, and we'll choose with our eyes, as we know. Great, so there's some good thoughts there. So I've got a selection of stuff here, which has come from various of these webinars that I've done and sessions. This is sort of a potted history of everybody's thoughts. The weather, obviously, does, if it suddenly starts to rain just before lunch, it's great, because we know that the main courses are going to be in high demand that day. And then if it's summery, then maybe the salads are going to get a bit more focus. How hungry are people? What time of day is it? Is it 12:30 at peak lunchtime time? They're going to be hungry when they come in. So that will make a difference as to how much they want to choose. At the time of the day, is it the morning, in which case maybe it's a coffee and a croissant type of time, or maybe it's the afternoon and they just need a sugary pick-me-up before they tackle the afternoon. Prices, yes, we mentioned those. How much disposable income people have at any point during the month. How much time pressure people are under. Are they just in a grab and go kind of mood, or are they going to sit and just chill out because they've had a bit of a busy morning and they want to spend some time in a different space? Peer pressure. So this is interesting, because we don't like queues, and yet we do like queues, us Brits. we're always nosy to see what it is that people are queuing for, because we don't want to have to miss out on that fantastic thing, whatever it is. So making sure that if everybody else is choosing the pizza margherita, for instance, then that'll influence perhaps what we might choose. Maybe we were going to have a sandwich and just disappear, but everybody's staying, so yeah, okay, then I'll stay. Obviously, recommendations and ratings and how much people are sharing information about your offer, that's always a very positive thing to have. And promotions and displays, and we talked about that a bit earlier. So I'm just going to park the chat to one side because it does get in the way. Right. So what else is influencing choice then? So there's the shape of us, actually. It's our anatomy and evolution. So we have 2 eyes, 2 hands, and a single brain. So those actually have massive impact on our what we choose when we're out and about, and particularly with food. The one that the top one there, the eyes, means that we would choose the thing that is right in front of us, the hotspot. And our hands will choose the thing that's easy to reach. So it's easy to take action whenever we see that item that we want. And so you have to think about what space people's hands work in. And then our brain, which is full of all sorts of sometimes really useful and other times less useful information and thoughts and plans about the evening, or how you're going to tackle that meeting, or whatever it is. That means that anything you're trying to talk to customers about must be really simple to understand. If it's familiar, all the better, but that helps impulse decisions if it's really understandable and super clear as people see it. So those things influence how you might lay out the counter for our puzzle, our star, our dog, and our plough horse. So you need to prioritize your space so that your stars get the best positions. Once you've got the hotspot identified on each counter that you have, think about where the customers are coming from, what they're going to see first, and what's the eye level. And that will help you to pinpoint that hotspot. And that is the great selling point. That is the place for the stars and for the puzzles to become stars, because you'll be putting them right in front of people and boost their sales. So use hotspots for stars and puzzles. Excellent. I'm glad I just said that, because that looks like that's the right answer. Excellent. So any less visible space, so the end of the counter, or in a less well lit space, plough horses, that's where they go. So things, I don't know, it might be things like Coca-Cola or something, cans of Coke, might not generate much income, but they're very popular. And as soon as somebody sees that red branding color, they will instantly be attracted to it. So thinking about where you put your Coke fridge, for instance, putting that in a darker corner. You don't have to make a big song and dance of it if it's not making you much money, because those will sell anyway. And always put associated impulse products close by to this hotspot, to the stars, so that you will increase spend and profitability while you've got their attention on that hotspot. So just thinking about this counter, wake up. Where's the hotspot? What goes on the first counter? And where do the upsells go? That's what we're going to look at. So where's the hotspot then, folks? So customers are coming from the left-hand side as you look at, well, at least as you look at my screen. I hope that's the same for yours. I hope it's not reversed. So customers are coming from the left. Where's the hotspot? Left corner, exactly, Alex, that's right. So the first counter in a row counter like that, linear one, is going to be where the hotspot focus is. So what we're saying that goes on that first counter? Well, what sort of dishes? The stars, yes, exactly, Adam, yes, well done. So also puzzles, they can go in there. Come on, I'll just get that. That's it, stars and puzzles. Because if you're trying to increase the popularity, that is the place to put them. So if the stars are going to sell well on the second counter, move those onto the second counter. The puzzles can take pride of place on the first, and then your plough horses would go on the third counter. So upsells, whereabouts do those go? Bearing in mind the customers are coming along the front there. Where would you put those? Thinking about ambient, I should say ambient upsells, where would they go? Any thoughts? Middle counter. Oh, well, yeah, okay. On top, done. And that's exactly what I was looking for. And Adam said that as well. Yeah, well done. They all came in at once there. Iona said that too. It's eye level. So if you can put something on that top shelf, that's where to sell from. That's the perfect place. So then you're going to put your plough horses at the far end because they may still sell, but that's a determined customer who's gone past those other two counters of attractive dishes which you've made look amazing. So if we've got optimized layouts, we are going to have better sales and GP, which is a big hurrah. Easier production and kitchen support because we're helping the staff in the kitchen to focus on the products that are generating the best income and the ones that are selling the best. Higher turnover of those dishes means better presentation, so everybody's happy about that. Customer service becomes more efficient with less queuing. In actual fact, where I've seen this work is where for people who have fish and chips on the first counter traditionally, that they move it to the end, then they make a bit of a song and dance about the stuff that's on the first counter. You'll distract a lot of the people who were coming in for fish and chips to have something that makes you more money. So using your plough horses to and where they go is a very important trick up your sleeve to make sure that you get better flow of customers, so it's not so demanding on the fryer in the kitchen, for instance. So less wastage of resources. You're going to have a much more even spread of the counter use and the space that you have there. You'll be making the most of your space. Customers and team happier. That's all good. So I'm just going to look quickly. I'm just conscious of the time, actually. We'll whiz into menu layout. So that's the counter layout. So hopefully that makes sense. It sounds like it does to everybody. That's good. So now we're going to look at written menus, which is possibly less. Is there actually, let's see, is there anybody on the session who actually has written menus they give out to their customers? Not just the one that you might have sitting on top of the counter or on the intranet. Ah, Dana does. Right, okay, Dana, in that case, yeah, okay, Adam, good, excellent. Right, in that case, I just didn't want to waste everybody's time. But this could be interesting in that case then. Great. Righto, lovely. So there's a bit of psychology behind what should go where. Now, less is definitely more. 7 dishes max per category for fixed menus. Odd numbers are more appealing. It's interesting that I don't know whether you've come across this aspect that we respond better to odd numbers. We seem to find the middle of anything, and that's always if there's something in the middle, i.e. the 4th dish in this case, then you'll focus on that rather than the gap in between the 6th. So if you've got 6 dishes, you'll look in the gap that's between 3rd and 4th. Whereas if you've got 7 dishes, the 4th dish will get our attention. We tend to want to find the middle of something. It's just the way our brains work and our eyes. So anyway, but keeping it short and sweet in terms of your menus, it does help the decision making, which means that there'll be faster turnover of customers. And a mix of stars, puzzles, and plough horses, as is typical. Have a range of prices to improve customer choice, and those should be not in price order. It's always important not to start with either the cheapest or the most expensive and then work down, because people will then know that if they choose from the bottom, it's going to be a cheaper dish. So making sure that it's mixed up, that it's interesting is an important trick. So don't list in price order. Yeah. Use descriptive language because that helps understanding, particularly with our poor brains wanting to make a decision when it's overused. So things like line port, free range, locally sourced. It's not great detail, but it just helps people to see more about you and understand it's not just lasagna. It's got a bit more to it than that. Demonstrates better attention that's been paid to the dish. So the fact that you've actually bothered to describe it means that you care much more than if you hadn't bothered to. That's the perception that we get. So giving it somebody's name is always a positive thing. So if we think about how we're going to present the menu, highlighting your stars is a very important aspect. So using a box or a different color to help it stand out. A larger font for that, your stars. Prime position, so at the top is good. And then don't highlight the price. On the one on the left of those lists there, you can see there's a column of pricing. And on the right, we've got it's included within the description, if you like, of every dish. So rather than having a little line of dots and a highlight the price type of thing, the prices blend in. And they also, some on those ones, don't have a pound sign. It's less, that's obvious. It's money we're talking about. So it's not about the money, it's about the description there. Mix up the order in terms of the pricing so that there's a good spread of things. And then thinking about how we actually read a menu. One panel menu, so it's one sheet with a list of stuff going down. Customers can make fast decisions from that. They don't tend to order as much. If you've got two panels or two columns on a single page, it evokes the feeling of plenty of choice while still being easy to manage. Any more than that makes it more confusing and less fast for people to make a decision. So here's some examples of different paneled menus. So we start at the top and then we'll go down to the bottom, which is perhaps quite obvious on the one panel one. The two panel one, again, we'll look at the right hand side, top, and then eventually we'll go down to the bottom of the left hand page. So if you've got anything that you want to sell, you need to put it where the green dots are, and definitely not where any of the red dots are. The red dots can take maybe if you've still got to have dogs or your loss leaders, they can go there. So if we think about yes, making use of the this knowledge then. So this is a kind of a summary. If you understand the performance of each dish, that's got to be the underpinning of what you're trying to do. Because if you don't have that, then you won't know where to start. Then you need to know where your hotspots are in your spaces and in your menus, if your written menus. Use them for the dishes that you want to sell and not for the things that really don't drive your profitability. And lay the products out in the order you want to sell them. So prime positions for the main feature, supporting role for associated impulse items, and then a background position for plough horses, and get rid of the dogs. So hopefully that makes sense. So we're going to do a quick whiz through some questions. We've got 10 questions. So fingers at the ready then, guys. Let's get this. I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to keep score, but so it's just for your own satisfaction. Okay. What's the goal of an effectively engineered menu? What we're trying to do? Give me a letter. So nice and simple. A. Oh, sorry, I didn't spot that coming all at once. Harriet, yeah, well done, guys, excellent. That's excellent. They all whizzed in. Right. Which of these categories are you aspiring to reach for all of your dishes? C, yeah, nice one. Okay, the whiz through these at this rate, folks. Excellent. Which of these methods would not help you to improve the popularity of a dish? B, yep, absolutely, Adam. You were quick off the mark there. Yes, hopefully that makes sense. So that's what you want if you're trying to get something less, make something less popular because it's not making any money. Put it at the end of the counter. Which of these categories sells well but doesn't generate you the return that you want? we got? No, not the no, the sells well but doesn't generate you the what you want. It's D. That's right, Ashvin. Yes. Plough horse is the C. That's the one that doesn't it sells it doesn't sell well, but no, hang on. I sells well but doesn't. Oh yes, actually you're right, aren't you? I think that's yeah, I've got that round the wrong way. I apologize. Yes, the C's were right in that case then. Well done. So what's the best way to deal with a dog dish? Yeah, indeed. So that is definitely the best thing to do. It's the simplest route, and unless it's something that you really can't live without, like a loss leader. How can you improve the percentage margin of a plough horse dish? Choose up to 3. A, B, and D. A, B, and D. Yes, A. Yeah, yes, all of those will help to improve the margin. Absolutely. Sell more of them is the one that's obviously just going to improve the overall profitability in pounds. But if it's not actually bringing your margin down, it could be a challenge. Yeah, well done, folks. What should you not include in your food costs? E. Oh, no, A. That's right, Lionel. That's what I was trying to get across there. It's the vague pinch or splash that's a challenge because it doesn't actually help you to pinpoint exactly how much something is. And one person's pinch is another person's splash. So do be careful about any terminology. So it should always have a quantity there. Why is it important to use a standard recipe template to choose up to 3? ECD, yeah, exactly. Alison, Matthew, yeah, well done. Well done, all of you. Exactly. Question 9. What 3 things do you need to start engineering your menu effectively? BCD, Harriet, yeah, Harriet, yeah, she's got on the ball there. Well done, folks. Yes. And then last but not least, why is it important to consider how much labor goes into producing a dish? See, Emma, yep, exactly. But the boss probably will want to know. Okay, well done, folks. Thank you very much for taking part in that quick quiz. So, action plan from today, review your menu dishes, costings for all items, which we'll take as a given because I know that you've all been doing that. Make sure that you have included all of the packaging and wastage, etc. Review your sales data. So really examine what's popular and what's not about each dish so that you know, once you've got that, you can put them on the menu engineering graph. If anybody needs any assistance with that, obviously do get in touch. My email address is at the top of the page, and obviously you can get in touch through Sarah. Then you can decide what action to take with each item. So improve the profitability of plough horses, improve the popularity of puzzles, remove the dogs, and update your menus and counter layout accordingly. So after all of that, any questions from you guys for me or for anybody else? I'll just give you a few minutes if anybody wants to write anything, but otherwise we are there, I think, folks. So if anybody does want to get in touch, I'll just put my contact details on the next slide. There we go. So actually there's email address at the top of the page there. And if you do get a chance to leave me a review by scanning that QR code, that would be very kind. And I really appreciate you being there. Thank you very much. So I think, are we up to not quite 3 o'clock yet? Is anybody going to ask any questions? Anybody got
There
anything?
doesn't seem to be any, Judy.
No.
I'm sure if anyone thinks of anything, they can submit
Yeah,
it to
get in
myself or
touch.
you
Yeah.
later. So thank you very much for attending today. Look forward to seeing most of you again next week. And don't forget the recording will be available, and we'll send out the slide deck as well, won't we, Judy?
Yes,
If
indeed. I'll
anyone
get
wants
that
to
to you,
review.
Sarah. Yeah,
Thank you.
lovely.
Okay. Have a
Thank
good day,
you.
everyone.
Thanks then. Bye.
Bye bye.